It's almost midnight, and while you're asleep, something is happening 6 feet from your front door that you have never once witnessed. A spider, the same one that's been living in the corner of your porch for the last 2 weeks, is quietly taking apart the entire web she built yesterday morning, thread by thread. Not because it broke, not because a storm ruined it. She's doing it on purpose, and by the time your alarm goes off tomorrow, that web will be completely different from the one you walked past today. Most people think that spider is just sitting there, doing the same thing every single day. She isn't. And there's one thing she's been doing this entire time, something happening on your porch right now, that most people never find out until the very end of this video. Stay until the end. Let's go back a few hours to right after sunset, when this actually starts. The web comes down first. Around dusk, before she builds anything new, she starts eating. Not prey, the web itself. Most orb weaver spiders, the kind that build those perfect circular webs you see stretched across porches and fence gaps, tear down their own structure at the end of every cycle and consume it, strand by strand. It sounds wasteful until you understand why. Silk is pure protein, and spinning a brand new web from nothing burns an enormous amount of energy. So instead of leaving yesterday's material to rot in the wind, she recycles it, digesting the old threads and turning that protein straight back into new silk inside her own body. Within a couple of hours, the same spider who ate her old web is already producing the raw material for tomorrow's. The web you glanced at yesterday afternoon and the one that will be there tomorrow morning are never actually the same web, not even the same silk. She's been running this exact routine, night after night, the entire time she's lived on your porch, and you've never caught her doing it once. Then she starts building, and this is where it stops being simple. She doesn't just fling silk around randomly. She starts with a single anchor line, drifting a loose thread on the breeze until it catches something, a nail, a plant stem, the edge of your porch light. Once that first line holds, she builds outward from it with almost mathematical precision. The outer frame threads go up first, dry and rigid, purely structural, like scaffolding before the real building starts. Then come the spiral threads, coated in a sticky, glue-like substance, laid down in a tightening spiral toward the center. By the time she's finished, every single strand in that web has a specific job and a specific tension, tuned so precisely that she can sit motionless at the center, rest one leg lightly against a single thread, and know exactly what's touching her web, where it landed, roughly how big it is, and whether it's still moving. Researchers have compared the vibration patterns running through a web to sheet music. A moth vibrates differently than a fly. A fly vibrates differently than a wasp. She knows the difference before she's even turned to look. Somewhere around 2 a.m., something finally hits the web, and this is where most people would assume the story is simple. It isn't. A moth, drawn in by your porch light, clips one of the outer threads. The vibration travels instantly through the whole structure, and within a fraction of a second, she's moving, not randomly, but directly toward the exact point of impact, because she already knows precisely where it is. What she's carrying with her to do the job is, on paper, almost unbelievable. Ounce for ounce, the silk she's about to wrap that moth in is stronger than steel of the same thickness. Some species produce silk with a tensile strength that actually rivals Kevlar, the same material used in bulletproof vests. A web spun from a strand the thickness of a pencil could, in theory, stop a plane. That's the material she produces, for free, using nothing but what she ate the night before, from an organ inside a body that weighs less than a paperclip. And here's a detail almost nobody clocks. She's never seen any of this. Not the moth, not the web, not her own legs moving. Orb weaver spiders have famously poor eyesight, some barely able to distinguish light from shadow. Every part of what just happened, the anchor line, the frame, the spiral, the strike, was done entirely through touch and instinct, wired into her before she ever hatched. No blueprint, no trial and error. No watching another spider do it first. She has built an architecturally precise trap that would take a human engineer with a full set of tools, several hours to design, and she's never once seen what it looks like. By morning, something about tonight's web is different, and it's telling you something specific. It's bigger than the one from 3 nights ago. Noticeably bigger. That's not random either. Spiders that are well-fed tend to build smaller, tighter webs because they don't urgently need to catch anything. Spiders that have gone a few days without a solid meal build larger, more elaborate webs, gambling more silk and more energy on the chance of catching something worth the effort. So, a sudden jump in size isn't just a good night's work. It's a quiet, visible record of how hard she's had to work lately just to eat, written out in silk on your porch for anyone who bothers to actually look. And here's the part that changes how you'll think about that corner of your porch for good. She didn't pick that spot by accident, and she's not rebuilding there out of laziness. Studies on orb weaver behavior show spiders learn and remember the traffic patterns around a chosen site. When your porch light turns on, when your door swings open and pushes a current of air past that corner, when insects reliably show up at a certain hour because of it. A spider that keeps rebuilding in the exact same spot has, in her own limited way, identified that location as reliable, worth the nightly cost of tearing down and rebuilding an entire structure. Which means, in a very literal sense, she has been paying attention to your schedule longer than you've been paying attention to hers. She knows roughly when your light comes on. She knows roughly when your door opens in the morning. And every single night, she rebuilds an entire engineered structure specifically because your own routine made that corner worth the effort. By the time your alarm goes off and you step outside, coffee in hand, half asleep, she's already back at the center, perfectly still, legs resting lightly on threads that weren't there 12 hours ago. You'll probably walk through it without looking, the way you have 100 times before. But that thread breaking across your shoulder isn't nothing. It was built and rebuilt while you slept, out of a material stronger than steel, by an animal that's never seen her own work, in the exact spot she chose because she's been quietly studying your habits longer than you've ever studied hers. Tell me in the comments, have you ever found a web rebuilt in the exact same spot morning after morning? I want to hear it. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.